Welcome. Thanks everyone for being here this evening. I call this regular meeting of the Town Plan and Zoning Commission to order on Monday, June 1st, 2026. We're meeting at the Senior Cafe, the Center Building at 4 Meeting House Lane. My name is Jeff Kennedy. I'm the chair of the Woodbridge Town Plan and Zoning Commission. Other members with us this evening are Paul Schatz, Aaron Hoffman, Bob Wisnia, Jim Horwitz, Mel Medina, and Matt Edwards. We have seated, do we have someone seated tonight for alternates, Chris, per your charts?
Correct.
So Mr. Wisnia is seated, correct?
And also Mel Medina.
And Mel Medina, okay. All right, thank you. We are this evening ably supported by the resourceful Chris Sullivan, our town land use analyst and zoning enforcement officer. Also joining us is Mr. Mike D'Amato, our town planner, and Mr. Nick Bamonti, our town attorney. Thank you, Mike and Nick, for being here. Welcome. Nice to see everyone that's here this evening. Our agenda is published on the town website and was previously published before our meeting. Our key agenda items this evening include public hearing on new regulations in connection with Public Act 25001, and we'll have a work session as noted on our agenda specific to those regulations. It's possible the commission tonight will receive public comment, close the hearing, and vote on the regs. But if we feel there's some more modification work that needs to be done, we will have to have one more meeting this month to then move it and pass it. So with that, we're going to move along, and if you can take a look at the agenda, we're going to the public hearing first, which is to listen to and hear public comments regarding our zoning regulations, where we're going to modify those regulations per House Bill number 8002, Public Act 25-1. So we're going to commence our public hearing right now. The public hearing is for the purpose of listening to your comments. You will each have about 3 minutes or a little bit more, depending on what you have to say, to discuss these particular regulations. Please keep your comments this evening focused on the regulations that we have in front of us. As a reminder to everyone, off-the-record communication with members of the commission on our regulations are prohibited. Please keep your comments brief, and thank you very much for coming, and please sign in. So thank you very much. With that, we look forward to hearing what you have to say. Go ahead, Don, all yours. So just sign in.
I didn't know where the sign-up sheet was.
Yeah.
Should be right on the left.
Probably, it's usually right up on
Sign
the...
up if you don't mind. I'll, believe it or not, have a handout, a colorful handout.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mind sharing one? Address too? Thank you very much. My name is Dominic Thomas. I am here as the chairman of the Woodbridge Housing Committee. And as a little bit of background, I also served as the chairman of the Affordable Housing Plan Committee 4 years ago. Our meeting was delayed until last week because of the budget public hearing. So we our committee met and we looked at the regulations that were proposed, and unfortunately I did not get an opportunity to reduce some of these points to writing. But I do want to stress that the committee, all 6 of us on the committee, stressed that one of the things, we haven't made any decisions yet, but one of the things that we all felt strongly about, which was in the Affordable Housing Plan, is that every effort should be made to seek housing above retail, commercial, and even, if possible, office industrial in the downtown area, since Woodbridge has a very restricted downtown area. And back 4 years ago, we looked at the downtown area, we made some suggestions, we looked at a lot of sites. We identified, for example, the shopping center on Bradley Road, talked to the owners, and they felt that there was the possibility that existed. So what I did in my little handout was obviously your zone of what the downtown looks like, and I made some notes, just some notes from there. For instance, 75-foot setback on 2 of the zones, 60 foot from Amity, 60 foot from Amity. These were things that I was picking up. And then what I did is, the next 3 are screenshots of your GIS, so that you can take a look at. The possibility exists that you may have existing homes, existing properties developed, and I just wanted to point out, you could also have other properties where properties are taken down and they try to develop in the 2 to 9 category, either as townhouses, apartments, or whatever. With respect, and you may have considered these properties pre-existing legal non-conforming uses or buildings under the your regulations, but like, for example, in number 4, commercial district standards for existing commercial and residential building conversions. In Dev 1, you have 75 feet from Amity Road or any other road. And Dev 2, you have the same thing. Whereas in some of the other zones and other roads, you go down to 10 feet. But even in the B1 zone, I believe it is, or GB, you have 60 feet. And you have some buildings, if you look at the GIS screenshots, you have some buildings there that are potential for having second floor housing on them, second floor apartments on them, and they're not 60 feet from the front line. So you're making them pre-existing legal non-conforming structures, which then means that if there's some expansion required, they would have to get a variance. And that's not summary review, nor is it encouraging housing. An example I wanted to give to you that relates to like construction of a building and whether you can or cannot do it. And under your commercial district for duplex, triplex, fourplex, and multiplex. And by the way, my point in this is to give you, I think the commission needs to look at this and make sure you as a commission have enough flexibility. Because my commission, the Housing Commission, believes you need to focus on the housing in the commercial area. And so the example I found out to give you on the multiplex, fourplex is, since I drive by it all the time, those 2 little homes that sit in the middle of Toll Brothers. Toll Brothers and
Yes.
you have 2 little homes. If those 2 families ever decided to build a sixplex, if they decided to build a sixplex, they wouldn't be able to do it. Now, it's a perfect site to actually do one. I mean, if they decided to knock their houses down and build a sixplex, first of all, 75 feet is probably the depth of their lot. Yeah, their whole lot's back. And plus the fact, the other thing I think that might be considered that is enticing to some developers is you may want to look in some of the commercial ones, if there's new ones, to reduce the front setbacks so that parking can go behind. And that's something that's advantageous. The other point, just make sure that building width, again, it's a situation where a lot of those buildings may exceed the 50 feet or 75 feet that's in there, so you're making them pre-existing legal non-conforming. They can still come to you, but that limits their ability to expand. And finally, and this one I'm going to switch to being out of the committee chairman to me personally. I don't think setting a maximum unit size is appropriate. I think you should give yourself some more flexibility on that. You could have somebody wanting to do a duplex at 1,100 feet or 1,200 feet, and that would be an appropriate thing. And you're better off, I think, limiting the number of bedrooms rather than limiting the size, which is important. And so you've done a lot of hard work in this. There's a lot of analysis. My main goal is for you to understand that as a committee, we think housing in the downtown area is important. Housing above commercial is important. And I think in looking at it, that these regulations need to give you as the commission more flexibility in addressing what is beneficial. So, thank you, and if you want me, I'll answer any questions.
Yeah, I am going to do that. It's a little bit of a departure for us. Sometimes we just give people 3 minutes and there's a room full of 300 people, but Dominic knows what he's talking about. So if any commissioners want to ask him a quick question, please go ahead. Please.
So you spoke quickly, I was trying to follow. Do you have anything written down you can share with us or share with everybody?
I would have to go
Chris?
back and take my notes. I will, because I don't know whether you do it, I can reduce some of my notes and points and send it in via an email. I'm sorry, I just didn't.
No, I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah,
Because Dominic, we don't want these to be so restrictive, nobody builds anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Or when people do, or if a whole bunch of buildings then are outside of our regs. Okay,
And they gotta come here anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Defeats the purpose.
You know, so
Yeah.
I'm aware of those notes, our planner is hearing us, and,
Yeah.
I appreciate your contribution.
Yeah,
like you said.
my research was somewhat unscientific in that for distances, I simply used the GIS. They have a measuring tool, so I was able to look at how wide some of the buildings were. You have a limitation in some of the things of maximum width 60 feet. Well, there's a couple that may exceed that. When you look at them.
So when that's the case, what
they can-
happens?
They can still qualify as pre-existing legal non-conforming for the existing buildings, but when they are, and I defer to
Yeah.
Monte on this,
Yeah, yep, I
but when
understand.
they are pre-existing legal non-conforming, that limits their ability to expand, to put something on that would be related to, for example, potentially, that extra entrance that they need to comply with the building code and the safety code for the second floor apartments. So wait a second, I'm sorry, you can't do that because you're pre-existing legal non-conforming, and you don't want to be sending those people to ZBA for variances.
Understood. Jim, did you have a question?
I did, and I think I understand what you're saying, Mr. Thomas, but just to be clear, your view is that our zoning regulations, these proposed regulations, should give us maximum opportunity for the development of housing in what you're describing as the downtown business district.
Exactly.
And you're saying that these proposed regulations, as you're reading them, both as an individual citizen and as the chairman of the housing committee, don't accomplish that.
They put some restrictions on you that you should be, get rid of those restrictions.
Got it. And I think you anticipated my question. If you had an opportunity to wave a magic wand to get the regulations that you wanted, these don't accomplish that.
No, I think that some of the numbers should be ranges rather than numbers. And the best thing in the world when you're doing this in a property area that is already developed is to focus as much as you can on a site-by-site development. Because sometimes the one-size-fits-all doesn't work. And you've got a whole, the reason I gave you those screenshots is you've got a whole different batch of lots, from tiny lots to weird-shaped lots to everything else that exists down there. So when we're just talking the 2 to 9, we're not yet to the point.
That's right, that's right.
We're just
That's
talking
right.
the 2 to 9s,
Right.
and somebody wants to come in, and somebody wants to take a pre-existing legal non-conforming two-family in the commercial zone that's in the commercial zone and wants to turn it into a fourplex. You should have the flexibility to allow it, but yet accomplish your requirements for parking and everything else. It's just, that is my point. So instead of a straight number, you can easily sometimes accomplish that by putting in a range.
Got it. And if we were to adopt regulations that were 100% consistent with the new state statute, would that satisfy what you're talking about?
Well, I don't think the new state statute has any of the bulk standards. It lets you set the bulk standards. So what I'm talking about is the bulk standards that you set need to be flexible.
Got it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, good. Dominic, thank you. You're going to hear us talk to the planner about this in a little while. Thank you very much.
Okay, right.
Thank you for coming and explaining it. We definitely understand what you're trying to do.
And if you want the planner or somebody to contact me, I'm running because I have a large hearing in Derby tomorrow.
But thank you
Somewhat
for,
controversial,
thank you,
they gotta work on it.
thank you for coming out. We appreciate what you had to say.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody, next person?
Hi, I'm Sharon DeCott, Chair of the Conservation Commission, and in all honesty, I've looked at this for the last 20 minutes, and so I'm not as informed as I'd like to be about this transit zone document. But a few things, I noticed that things were canceled out of the original TPZ zoning regs that have been, that I'm just wanting to highlight, that it was something about trees in the front were no longer required, and different types of trees. I actually lost my connection on the internet, so I can't tell you exactly where it is, but it was deep into the document. So I'm just wanting you to make sure that when you change these, you don't forsake all the environmental and the civic beauty that can be enhanced by some regulations that would require greenery. Okay, and I'm not sure about all those, but I'm sure there's quite a few, and I think that in keeping with what people would like, if it had greenery, would be great. And I can't really speak to the quantity of apartments and building, but I think that leaving some open space and not making it all pavement would be something that people would appreciate in the town.
I appreciate your comments. We will ask the planner during our work session about any changes to our existing regs that got affected, regarding the plants and the greenery and so forth. He did add some language that's very specific. You might see that as well. I thought he did a pretty good job of it. But that is there, and we do appreciate your coming out.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you, Sharon. All right, there's a long line. Whoever wants to get up there.
I thought this place was packed. You know, Derek Sawaskis, 26 Venture Road.
Peggy, if you could just sign in, that would be great.
Yeah, I was just a little concerned, I guess you're putting affordable components on 2 to 9 units, which I think is gonna hurt, just like the ADUs. You're not achieving affordable housing when you penalize, say, an elder person that did an ADU, maybe illegally, but with the mandate of affordability and the 40-year, what's that called, deed restriction on these units, I think you're again going in the wrong direction as to what affordability means. It just means more units. And then having the parking in the rear, it kind of hurts the landscaping because you have all the building in the front. And it really, I think, if you look at Fairfield, Westport, they all went away from parking in the rear for those kind of reasons, creating shadows and more of a city look than what I think Westport and Canaan, those towns are pretty good at incorporating a small town feel with more housing. And I think that the committee is going to move past this, and you guys are going to reform more of the zoning regulations, I hope. And I think the planner has been saying it over and over again, is that the goal is to have more housing. It doesn't matter where it is, because when you make more housing, the prices are going to come down. People are afraid of kids coming. Westport and Canaan, Greenwich, all those towns have been growing. Cheshire's growing. So this fear mongering of development is bad. I think everybody should put a pause on it and forget about these moratoriums, because the state, believe it or not, when the towns respond this way, that's when they come up with this 830G, where they might, after the election, like they did last time, they kind of put a pause on everything now because it's election time. But when a certain party wins, I expect them that they're going to mandate 9 units anywhere there's sewer, anywhere there's water, anywhere maybe sewer and water could be expanded. But that's as a reaction to the small towns reacting in this, oh no, we don't want any, we have enough. And then also, since you only have the flats, you got 2 ways in and out of it, right? It's a bottleneck. So, vertical, where you'll get a lot more housing units than even, infill here and there, or sacrificing your industrial and commercial space. So anyways, thank you all for your hard work, and look forward to seeing what you guys come up with.
Thank you. Anybody else? Next person? Scott, did you want to say something? No, okay. Did you want to say something?
No.
All right, so, anybody else?
You should note for the record that there was a submission in writing via email from Mr. Hunter, which was distributed to you and
I
is part
know.
of the hearing record.
Okay, so that's in the right, and we have that in front of us, Chris?
Yes.
And that came out, I saw it ding on my email, and I didn't have enough time to get to it, but it's in record. Mike, did you see Mr. Hunter's email?
I did.
Okay.
I'll read it again now, just to be sure.
Just to take a look at it. All right, we just got it, so it's, I haven't formed an opinion on it. Okay. All right, in the public hearing, that's anybody else? Thank you. Nick, should I close the public hearing or just keep it open right through the work session, because we might have to go back to it, or how would you suggest?
I think we could keep it open for now, and if the commission has questions of the planner or myself, we could engage that way and see where we land.
Yeah, okay, good idea. Yep. All right. In the new business section of our agenda this evening, we have no new business. So,
Actually, there were 2 items that didn't get added in that you're going to receive this evening. They were,
so Chris, why don't you describe those, and thank you very much.
I passed them out to you. The excavation permits for 20 and 23 Lunar Drive, you received a renewal request for them. I did mention this to the chair earlier. We weren't sure how much business or how many people were going to be coming to the hearing. So the chair had advised me to ask those applicants not to come this evening, but rather to come at your July meeting so that you could discuss that with them. And at that point, they'll submit the items that are required to be submitted for a renewal request. And this was for 20 and 23 Lunar. You had previously transferred the permits to them. They just took ownership in late April. So to the best of my knowledge, they have not done anything, but they will come here before you to discuss that with you at your July meeting, if that's your choice.
did we I'm sorry, what are we missing? The engineering site plan, what were we missing?
The thing is, that you'd have to have a plan showing that they're in conformance with the original plan that was submitted, and they haven't done anything, so they're absolutely in conformance with it. And then you need a plan, a letter to certify that.
Okay.
So they will present those things to you.
Okay, and they'll come with that, present it to the commission then in July.
Correct.
What day in July is that?
July 6th.
July 6th, okay. All right, thank you. And then the other item, under new business, you said there were 2?
Well, there's the 2. There's
Oh,
one for
20 and
one for
23. Okay, so that, all right. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Chris, what's the email packet from Jim Urbano?
That's under correspondence. That just got sent to you today, and so that's coming to you under correspondence.
All right, so we're going to move into our work session. So the first point under our work session is amendments to the Woodbridge zoning regulations, which is what we're currently have in front of the commission today, which is a regulation change. So we have, and it's been published on our website, a list of potential regulation changes to adapt our regs to change and conform to Public Act 25001, which is that units that are a rental unit from 2 to 9 units can go into the commercial district. And so what we'd like to do right now in our work session is discuss that. Okay? So,
Can I just ask a question?
Of course.
Council? Is this still considered part of the public hearing?
Yes, it is.
so we're in an open public hearing, right? It's not closed. And
Correct.
the work session's part of that.
Correct. Right
Yeah.
now, you're still, and if you want to leave it open for some reason, for another meeting if need be after our discussion, then the hearing is technically still open and it will continue at the next meeting.
Okay. All right. So I had 4 or 5 questions that I wanted to ask of you that I had, and then we had some people raise some issues this evening, and then commissioners will have some things to say as well. Some of these you've already addressed, but I just want it on the record during this part of it, Mike, so these will be really easy to handle, okay? So in our regs now, it is possible the other towns have something have a summary review, but we don't. So we have the site plans, we have the special exceptions, okay? So you had to adapt the regs to include the summary review, correct?
Yes, except for all towns are adding summary review as part of it.
As part of this.
Yes.
So that's a new zoning category. And so what towns do is they put in the regulations, height or bulk requirements and so forth. And then, once that is set, any kind of, the construction would come to the summary review, but it's only a summary review. There's no public hearing, right, Mike? There's nothing like that.
Right.
So why don't you describe summary review just a little bit?
Can you just tell us where summary review is in the draft for referral?
So it's identified as a new, in the key, in section 6 applicable districts, it's the SR that's now in the table.
Page 2, Jim, right up at the top in the center, and it's in red.
Got it,
Yeah.
thank you.
So summary review, it's also defined on top of page 3. So when you're thinking about summary review, it is essentially the same as a site plan application in that it's administrative, done by the commission. There's no public hearing. The difference is with a site plan, the commission may elect to hold a public hearing. With summary review, you cannot. So the takeaway with this is that this whole regulation and everything that we're adopting has to be, can have no subjectivity. All of the standards have to be explicitly defined so that we all know what the criteria is, that when we all read it, we can come to the same decision on compliance when you see an application. But it's very similar to site plan.
All right, so,
So the check boxes.
Yes, that's a great way to
yeah, what did
describe
you
it.
say? I like that. You check the boxes, yes. Now, what about where Dominic was trying to have a little bit of movement in there where, is that possible? Does it have to be?
So I think when he says flexibility, my initial reaction is not possible because flexibility needs discretion and summary review does not include discretion. However, there could be a universe where flexibility means a range. So let's say that a side yard setback can be anywhere from 2 to 12 feet or something along those lines. But really, I mean, that's just establishing a sort of a bottom and a top end. And what we would focus most on is sort of what that minimum standard is, right? If we're telling you your side yard setback can be between 2 and 20 feet, we're not caring so much about the 20. So that part gets a little bit harder because we'd have to apply it the same every single time. And that's where it gets tricky with what we have to do for this.
So the town, we're all responding to this as all our neighbors and everybody in town
Right,
are trying to get this done because they pushed so fast with the dates.
yes.
So we might actually need to be able to have over time, we may have to come back with this whole thing again
Yes.
and work on it in 6 to 12 months. We could have 5 developers say, we want to put in 5 apartments. It's like impossible to build it in. Or we see these points, flex points or something, where it's so inflexible, these people are coming back. And we would want to loosen them up a little bit to give them that flexibility.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want this to prevent it. The whole point of the law is to allow it.
Yeah, there's sort of 2 trains of thought with this whole approach. You can have a very prescriptive, very constrained, very focused, and very articulate regulation that defines literally everything that you need to do down to colors, lighting, type of planting, spacing, which is the approach we've taken. And so that is going to make design and retrofitting and all those things more complicated, but will give the commission the most oversight into these projects at the front end. Or you can reduce and eliminate and delete and get rid of a lot of the stuff that's in here, which will make these projects easier to fit into existing buildings or on existing parcels. But the risk with that becomes that you have a project come before you that you want to have some control over some component of it and you just don't. So my approach has been to start with a high bar. We can find out where pinch points are and we can eliminate versus have a project that we don't have some component developed and sort of look at that and wish that we had thought of that through the amendment process we're in now.
Well, hopefully people will communicate
Yes.
with the town, because I don't want people to just to see it and say, oh, this project I wanted to just fit. Well, we want to hear about it. If it's 20 feet here or 30 feet there, I mean,
Right.
It could fit in very naturally, aesthetically pleasing, look really good, but oh, it doesn't fit the box, so then they don't build it. I mean,
So, so the good news is, this is not like 8-30G where a developer comes in and says, your regulations are wrong or don't work, and I get to do what I want anyway. It's just like everything else. They could come in and say the reg doesn't work, and you could say, okay, well, let's do a text amendment. You could talk to them about that,
That's what we do now.
and that process would still be in place.
And that would still be, I mean, we could have public hearings all the time on just something that doesn't quite fit. I mean,
But-
you
and
know,
so-
like it could be awful.
Yes, but I would point to you to sort of what we're trying to get at with this, because we don't know. Everybody in the state is trying to do this.
I understand.
Is we have section H, which is alternative compliance.
I saw that, it was very interesting. Why not, this is a good segue to it.
Yep.
So
Hey,
if
before
someone,
we go there,
yep,
Mike, can you talk about section 2D, which also corresponds on page 3 to page 14, this master development plan? I'm not familiar with ever having that conversation.
So that is at the very start of this conversation when you guys completed your correction of the opportunity housing regs, what was it, January or so? We started talking about the best way to handle housing projects in general. And one of the things you might remember is I gave you guys a memo that talked about how to approach housing developments going forward, and I suggested a tiered approach. And sort of the last tier, the highest tier, would involve a master plan, because that gives the commission the highest level of discretion. And so that would involve a multi-step process, multiple public hearings, and multiple points where the commission would have oversight over the design and overall layout of a project.
Master plan in Mike's context basically means something like your special exception process, but with a higher level of discretion to the commission, which hasn't been spelled out yet.
Right.
Because we're not there yet.
So we're putting that placeholder to simply reflect sort of the structure, the way the reg is setting up, but there's nothing, it's not operative, it's just a placeholder.
Okay.
There's nothing that anybody can do with it.
now what we're doing now covers units 2 to 9, right?
Yes,
Okay, but if there's a contemplated 12 to 15 unit development type situation, you have this as 20 plus units on letter K, all right?
Right.
So that confused me.
so if you go to the table that's in the front of the reg,
Yeah.
you'll see multifamily 10 to 20, and then 21 plus, they're all the same.
What page are you on?
It's
2?
2.
Okay.
So that table, it's creating the columns, but you'll see it's all the same, special exception, which is your current
Just
regulation.
current regulation.
Correct, which is why it's shown in black. So I have the columns there so that what we originally talked about was creating that third tier, which is the high level of discretion. But right now, they're all exactly the same review process because your current regs treat it all as special exception.
Understood.
So I'm just carrying that the same way. So whether someone wanted 11 units or someone wanted 96 units, it's all special exception by your current regs.
Right now, yeah, sure.
And it would be the same.
Paul, is that answering your question? Do you want to?
No, right now, there's no content.
There-
That's fine.
It's just, it's a placeholder.
Okay.
Right.
Right, okay, all right. Let me see if I have any other questions for you before we go to the alternate compliance, which was kind of interesting, and the partial deviations from the plan, which I thought was very creative, including the addition of a potential affordable housing unit and within the development, so I thought that was very good, okay? All right, so the town, can you just say, because we've already discussed this, you're gonna be saying this again.
Sure.
But the town is trying, we have a huge reliance on residential real estate in our tax rolls and for revenue and so forth in town. So we are trying to get more economic development, as we discussed. Could this potentially crowd out economic development a little bit because we're putting in the housing in the commercial district? And how do those things feed off of each other? Because I hear people say too, when you do some residential development, then the economic stuff will come too.
Yeah, so I think a couple of things. If someone has a commercial building and they're not going to spend hundreds of dollars a square foot to convert it to residential if they can just rent it. So someone that may consider converting a commercial building to residential is likely someone that's not finding a tenant. And that could be for many number of reasons. But this doesn't require that they go fully to residential. They could go as mixed use.
So you could have a doctor's office, or you could have a store, and then you can have above it residential or in the
Correct.
same building?
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so the benefit to going any type of residential is that more bodies living in this area will create more customers for these businesses or potential employees for businesses that may be hiring or whatever. But there's still all of the obligations of the building code, fire code, all those things to actually make these projects work. So it is a significant investment to go from a commercial building to a residential building, and even more so to have both of those uses occurring in the same physical building. So I don't think that this is going to you're going to see some massive reduction in your commercial parameters. And multi-family residential buildings are very expensive as far as value is concerned. And so I would argue would probably replace, or sometimes be valued higher than a commercial 3-tenant contractor storage building that's metal and has nothing inside is going to be worth a fraction of what a building of the same size but with residential units inside is going to be worth. So I don't see this as being a significant issue from a Granite's perspective.
Very helpful. Couple other things. In general, these regulations, you do feel that they get the town consistent with Public Act 25001? You feel that way generally?
Yes.
Right? We're good? Okay. We get what's happening throughout the state where people have to make maybe some changes. I do feel this is consistent with Woodbridge's plan of conservation and development. Do you feel that as well? Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, so we're not raising any bar from a regulatory perspective. We are carrying any existing standard that you have, we're carrying it. And then we're establishing some new standards based on what we're having to do in the use. But we're not constraining any of the traditional things that you might see. We don't have like density requirements or any new threshold. We're simply carrying over what you have, when we can. So I think this would be consistent just like any other development.
So Mike, I'm going to talk to you about the alternative compliance, which I thought was very interesting, and then I wanted to bring in some commissioners to see if they have anything to add as well. So let me first do that. Why don't you go over your alternate compliance, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and so I just want to say I have a few other things that I want to go over as far as additional refinements and corrections from when you saw this draft, and that they are largely born from the conversations that we had at the last meeting and my conversation with you, which is to make sure that it is explicitly clear to everybody that this is only making amendments pertaining to summary review 2851. So I have like 3 additional tweaks that I want to make, which I have here and want to go over with you guys. They don't add content, it's just clarifying current reg. So we can go over those, but I will jump into alternative compliance. So this is getting to the bottom of page 10. It's subsection H.
Yep.
And the idea here is that we recognize that this is not a perfect regulation. There are several circumstances, I'm sure, that already exist that are unique and a little bit different with existing buildings or lots, and that we don't know what that all looks like. But the summary review process is essentially mandating that we create a level playing field for every single situation. And that's very hard to do when we have no idea what that looks like. So the alternative compliance is meant to create some type of a pathway where rather than making them amend the regulations or seek a variance, which is difficult because they have to prove hardship, they could come to you for a special permit, and in those 6 circumstances as specified, they could get a little bit of flexibility.
Yep.
The reason why I think that this is okay, because you might be saying, summary review, no public hearing, it's got to be non-discretionary, it's all these things, and now you're telling me a special permit. Well, I am, but it's because we're still affording them the whole summary review process. We're trying to create a little bit of a pressure relief valve, so if somebody shows up and says, my building is just never going to work, and rather than dump all this money into moving this or adding that or fixing this or doing that, can I just, give you an affordable housing unit, or maybe I can talk to you about some of the other things that are in there. It gives the commission that flexibility. without taking away their rights to have the summary review process available to them.
Got it, stay right there. So did you guys follow that? Okay, so in case there are, especially if there's like an existing building, or if something does deviate a little bit, he's trying to build it. I was thinking my brain today, it's like an accordion feature. You know, you kind of can stretch it out a little bit. There's a couple of provisions in here that are especially interesting, such as adding the affordable and the deed restricted units. But, all right, so I'm gonna let you go ahead, but did everybody follow that? You wanna say something
Yeah,
else?
just, does that then meet the gentleman's?
It might give Dominic a little bit of movement. You know, we may need to build in more in the future, but it could a little bit. Exactly
It
correct.
addresses
Yes,
the-
I agree, yeah.
Can I,
Jim, did you
yeah,
please?
this is all new to me, and so I just want to be sure I understand. The way I understood you to say summary review is that we have to set forth certain criteria. Check box, I think was the metaphor. And if somebody meets that, and this is by statute, right? This is the new statute, that we have to have some non-discretionary approach. And that's what the summary review process is.
Correct.
Okay. And so we're saying now with this alternative compliance is that in the situation where you don't satisfy the check boxes, that you may have another avenue to proceed? Is that what this is all about?
That it gives the commission the opportunity to decide that in certain circumstances, a partial deviation from the rest of the content of this section is warranted and might be appropriate.
So,
And who
again, so let me
decides
just
that?
say to
Who
my
decides
words, let me just say to
that?
my word, you're saying that we have 15 criteria in summary review. And somebody comes in here and they satisfy 12. Under the summary review process, that's a no-go.
Correct.
You can't go ahead, you don't satisfy that.
Correct.
And that what this is saying is that there are certain sets of circumstances where even though you're only 12 out of 15, we're going to still be able to let this sail through. Is that what this is about?
I've put you in the position of deciding which three of those checkboxes you might be okay with letting go as a trade-off, but not making it so prescriptive that you would be giving them all 15.
Okay, so I thought that this part of the reason for the summary review process is to give developers that there would be a known set of rules that developer can adhere to. And that is protects both developer, so the developer knows what the project is, and it protects the town from liability for abusing its discretion, right? So it's protects developer, protects the town. And is this alternative compliance, is this something that is mandated by the new statute, or this is something that we're coming up with to kind of be a pressure release?
The second,
The second.
yes.
And doesn't it then create the same kind of liability risk for us? Why won't a developer then say that in that situation, when Charlie came, he had 3 out of the 12, or 3 out of the 15 that were non-compliant, and you guys said thumbs up. And I am now coming here, and I only have 2 out of the 12 that are non-compliant, and you guys are saying thumbs down, and I happen to be a black developer from New Hampshire. Aren't I exposing the town to risk by this alternative compliance model?
So I won't say anything about exposing the town to risk because I'm sitting next to Nick, but I'll tell you my thoughts behind that and sort of why we're here. The circumstances that I have in mind would be, let's say you have an existing building, it's a commercial building, it's underutilized or it's vacant and has a flat roof. Your regulations don't allow flat roof. Maybe we have green space requirements and plantings. And the developer may come to you and say, listen, rather than me sink $250,000 into improving the physical design of my building and putting all these adjustments to the roof and all this other stuff, why don't I just deed restrict half the units? And you might say that's a really appropriate trade-off. The second developer may come in and say, I don't want to put in a landscape buffer because of my neighbor. I don't want to have green space. Residents don't need in-unit laundry. You might say, that is not a good trade-off, right? So it's giving you the flexibility to decide when there might be an opportunity to make gains on other goals the towns have.
Yes, but what I'm hearing is that flexibility creates liability risk, one. And two, I have sat in conversations here in the last 6 months where I have heard applicants for various things say, well, I know you guys are restricting my roadway to not have tree trunks serve as roadway, but you did that for Charlie over on XYZ Street. And it strikes me that we are losing the very protection. The flexibility is causing us to lose the very protection that the mandatory statute provides, the summary review process provides.
I think that if all we said was, there are means that you might achieve alternative compliance and you can do so by the special permit process and left it at that, then the answer would be yes. But we are trying to build in the specific circumstances by which the commission would make that decision. And so we're not just leaving it open to, he asked for this and someone asked for something different and we said yes and no. We're building in the way in which you might find alternative compliance. Because you can't issue blanket waivers. There's case law that says that. But you can find for how someone might meet the requirements of the regulations in an alternative way.
Okay, just two other questions on this, and I don't mean to monopolize the timing. Was this question of alternative compliance, was this the subject of discussion in the legislative history for the new statute?
So the summary review process, the summary review term was actually codified in statute a couple of years ago because there's another bill that says towns have to allow this, the as-of-right conversion of defunct nursing homes by summary review to residential. So summary review was established. They simply pointed to it. So there's not a lot of language which says what it is other than it's essentially non-discretionary and it's no public hearing, no variance, no other discretionary process involved. So we're adding this as an alternative, but not making it at all part of the process or obligation of the bill.
I think you anticipated my next question, but you want to go back to this one. But you said that there are, on the summary review process, you were describing two different models. In the legislative history or in the statute itself, is there guidance to the towns as to which of those two models? We're going to lay out all the rules, or we're going to be vague and give flexibility to towns? There's nothing like that. Okay. And then just going back to my alternative compliance question, was there any discussion in the legislative history on this statute that we're now trying to satisfy, where it said, yes, you must come up with a summary review process, and you can also have an alternative compliance model? Was that part of the discussion or in the statute?
So it was done as part of a special session, so there was no public input or public hearing. So this was passed, poof. So no, there was no
Okay,
discussion.
Thank you.
Mike, go ahead, Bob.
Hold on, let me make a comment further to Jim, and then I know some other people want to say. Not only that, Jim, this is the most obvious thing I could say, but there's no case law, no history, nothing before judges. This is also new. People are going to be fighting over all of these
Right,
things.
but in the law, and I know Nick will agree with me on this, there's lots of ways to understand what the law is. And one of the ways to understand the law, what the law is what does the law say on a piece of paper? Another way to understand what the law is as the law was being discussed and debated, what were people saying about the law? The law that's about to be developed, and that's the question that I was asking.
Yeah,
and then there's the third part, which is what you're describing is, okay, now we have a law,
And
we're going to go to court with this
Right,
law,
and there's nothing-
and Judge A is going to say it means this, Judge B is going to say it means this, and 15 years from now, the Supreme Court will say Judge A is right and Judge B was wrong, or whatever else.
There's no case law. All right, hold on, let me slow things down. Did someone have a question down? Okay, no. And then Paul. No.
For Nick, on the alternative review, it seems, I guess, jumping on Mr. Orris's points, that the safest route would be for the town to identify a controllable measure by which you would qualify, and that's probably building on an existing lot on top, an expansion to an existing lot that is not already in compliance, which feels like you can apply that more regularly than, say, I don't like the driveway and I want to move it 2 feet or whatever. So like there's like this varying degree to which we would apply an alternative, and what's your take on what's the right legal approach on that?
Again, we don't know exactly how that's going to play out.
Yeah.
There is express authority under the state law for this sort of alternative compliance option. The commission does not need to implement it. I think Mike is suggesting it may give an opportunity for more developers to get in the door here. Sure, Jim, at a potential risk of someone, we're talking in complete speculation and hypotheticals here, but sure, I mean,
What we do.
there's always.
That's
risk.
what we do,
That is
right?
what we do.
Right.
But it would be legal to implement in your reg, and so it's for this commission to think about whether that's really going to further effectuate the intention behind what we're passing here, which is effectively allowing for residential development in our commercial and mixed-use zones, at least for 2 to 9 units.
I was just going to say, my firm is writing many versions of these regulations, and we've had half of the towns decide that they want to make the alternative compliance as usable as possible, anticipating conflicts, and some towns that have decided to eliminate it. The reason why I decided to roll with it is if we do eliminate it, the first person that comes before you that can't meet all of the 15, their alternative is text amendment, and then you're going to be left with having to decide, do we amend the regulations based on the first person in the door, or 2, variance, and how do they have a hardship? Well, they don't, because they want to change their use, and that's self-created, so it's dead on arrival. So this is trying to create a situation where the commission can have that conversation, and without having to amend the regulations for all of these square pegs in the round hole that we don't know about, you can make those decisions through the special permit process, where you can get more information into public hearing that might cause you to think, okay, this makes good sense. So we're trying to sort of get the intent of summary review, but not make developers have to be in the position of having to seek variances or do text amendments every time, because there are all these unknown potential nonconformities.
Okay. Paul, did you want to weigh in on something?
I had a couple questions. Mike, the first is, these alternative regs are only for current structures in the zones that we're talking about right now, correct?
What do you, when you say alternative?
So in what we're talking about on page 11, so somebody can come from square run on any part of town with this?
So you're talking about the, where it says in number 1, the subject property contains a lawfully established existing building built prior to the effective date.
No. Let me take the floor on that, Paul. The alternative compliance is only for the 1 to 9 units.
It's only summary review.
2 to 9
Yeah,
units.
2 to 9.
It's not town-wide.
No.
Okay, Paul,
Okay.
did that help
Yep.
you?
But so what about if there's a parcel of land in one of the development, in one of the zones that doesn't conform? Can they come on that and say, I want to build A, B, C in one of the conforming zones, but my building doesn't conform?
It would only apply if it was the 2 to 9 unit
Yep.
residential or mixed use. If they wanted to build a medical building or a drive-through, it does not apply.
But it could be new construction in one of the zones where the setback doesn't work or something else doesn't work.
Correct.
Okay. My second question is, if we don't adopt this, and we're 6 to 12 months ahead, and something comes along and we say, geez, this is the only way to fix it, text amendment.
When you say this, do you mean alternative compliance or summary review?
Yeah, no, alternative compliance.
Yes, amendment or variance. Those are the only 2 ways.
Okay. And number 3, this probably envelops more than just page 11, but if for the 2 to 9 that are gonna be by summary review. This, and plus adding page 11, doesn't this make our housing stock less affordable? So if we're trying to increase our affordable housing stock, doesn't this make our housing stock less affordable?
I don't know, not sure how it would make it less affordable, because this has no bearing on anything that exists. We are creating an elective process by which somebody could read the regulations and in a matter of 20 minutes understand exactly what they need to do to create housing which is currently not allowed.
Right, but the housing we're creating increases the housing stock, which most would agree we don't have enough.
Yep.
But at the same time, it gets us further away from getting out from underneath 830G, right?
Yeah.
So you're saying because if we increase our total number of units, then we'll decrease our affordable percentage?
Correct.
Yes, you are correct.
So we're solving a partial problem, and then we're creating a bigger problem.
You are.
So is there any solution for that?
Well, in the accordion thing, if there is a deviation on point number 4.
I saw it, but that's
You
what
have
we
to-
want, I mean, come
Oh,
on.
but your larger point is correct, but we didn't do it's
Right,
a
I
state
get-
law, but you're correct.
I get it,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah, you're correct.
So we're gonna, hypothetically, everything gets approved. We're then gonna create an unintended consequence, as are many other towns.
Well, so I think when you think about it in the context of deed restricted, 8-30G eligible, affordable dwelling units, and your goal of the 10%, yes, you and every other town that is not at 10% is going to be contributing to the same problem in theory. However, if you look at degree of cost burdenness and overall cost of housing and housing attainability, any unit you create, it creates just more units in the market, is going to make units more attainable. So I won't use the word affordable because it won't be, but you're still going to decrease housing costs.
But attainable houses doesn't help us on a lack of affordable housing.
True.
It doesn't get you closer to a moratorium.
Gets us farther away.
If,
It actually
if
can.
these 2 to 9 unit developments come in and get built, then yeah,
Right.
you're hypothetically
Unless the
increasing your total.
legislature does something else down the road to fix it.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on, I'm gonna go to Mr. Edwards.
Yeah, just a question, so on the, on this alternative compliance, it says, the applicant may request partial deviation from the standards by permit which may be issued by the commission provided one or more of the following criteria have been established. But a couple of the criteria, I guess I'm not really following. One of my criteria says, hey, subject was, property contains lawfully established existing building. Then just number 2, adjustments and requirements is consistent with all relevant, statements. But then it gets into, like, the application will provide at least one deed restricted unit. So that's not really a requirement. That's like saying if we allow this deviation, you will give us one deed restricted unit, right?
That could be something that they offer.
Right, but, okay. It's just the wording of one or more of the following criteria have been established. What's, out of these 6 things that are listed, what are the specific criteria we're talking about?
It would
That
be-
they're looking for a deviation for, because like item 4 is, they're not asking for a deviation for that, they're just,
No,
that would be, so it's kind of confusing the way it's worded as far as.
1 through 6 are the things that they could offer, and they would be articulating to you through the special permit request what of these standards they didn't meet, what are everything above. So whether that is a roof type or a coverage requirement or a setback or any number of the site design standards, for example. Maybe they have existing units and they can't meet the size requirements or configuration. So they would be saying, you have standards for lot coverage, we can't meet those, so we're going to propose to go over by 8%, but we're going to deed restrict 2 of the units. And the commission could decide if they wanted to allow that by special permit.
So Mike, and to your point, under the alternate compliance, the applicant may request, and the commission may issue this. Like, it's up to the commission, correct?
Correct.
This is not, so if they come back and they say, we'll do some of these things, we're not forced into accepting it.
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Okay, did I hit up to that point? 1 second, Bob, you're gonna go next. This is- all right. Right, okay. Dr. Wisniak.
The only, as Jim Horowitz points out, I think once you have this alternate compliance,
Yep.
I think in many cases, you're gonna be eliminating this summary review. The developer's gonna come in, and they're gonna find one or two things that they just can't fit in this summary review.
Yep.
And I think almost every application, people may go with this to some extent, and it could open us to liability.
That could happen, but they could also be coming before the commission and say, can you please change the regs? Because we want this 10 feet more in one direction than the other on an existing building, but we can't put these units in it, so it would restrict the units being built. So I like this accordion feature. Look, I like it. I'm hearing from some of you, maybe you don't, but I think we could have people lined up here, the next year or two trying to do something that's so close, but it's not quite correct.
Jeff,
Yes, sir.
follow on Jim's point. Nick, you were going to weigh in on Jim's comment about liability, using the example of, was it race or gender? I don't remember what you said, but I know there's some minority.
All of it, yeah.
Right, so can you weigh in on Jim's question about town liability if one developer is Caucasian, one is a minority?
Yeah, there's always a risk. Sure, someone
I
can
don't- right, anyone can
but
sue anyone, but-
Well, I did address it by saying it's legal. It's built into the legislation. If you have these guardrails, so to speak, as part of that alternative review process, putting the power and authority to make the decision to this commission. So, I mean, again, I'll reiterate
So you're
that.
comfortable with it?
I'm comfortable with it,
Thank
yeah.
you. That's all I want.
Yep.
Can I ask a question
Mr. Hoffman?
about the, just in terms of liability, my understanding, the intent of this law is to promote this type of housing, correct? And towns are crafting this type of language to have a hand in making sure that it is going to be amenable to what they want. So some towns, I would imagine, are going to craft really restrictive language for this, saying if you want to build 2 to 9 units on commercial or mixed, it's got to be exactly this. And some towns may have the intent of doing that so as to restrict anyone from actually doing that. So there is liability in making, and presumably then there's a cause of action if someone is denied and saying you're not actually in compliance with 25-1. So there's a liability in being too restrictive, and would be liability possibly in being vague and allowing one person or the other with this alternative compliance. But it's not like, so you're comfortable with both the alternative compliance and the amount of restrictions that we've put on setbacks and landscaping and parking and all of those, that those are also not too restrictive to open us up to liability. If we deny someone and say you haven't met this, they could then go, obviously you can't, someone could say no, but that's something that a developer could come after we reject them based on the 15 base criteria.
It goes in both directions. I mean, that's a fair point. And the statute that authorizes or requires the summary review process, but does authorize what we're calling these technical requirements, these check boxes. They give a couple examples like setback, bulk, maybe they mention. And they say not limited to.
Yeah.
And then they give those couple examples. So some commissions, some town attorneys are really pushing that envelope, and
Yeah.
depending on how far they push those check boxes,
Yeah.
that could basically prevent someone from really getting in the door and getting an approval. And that will bring, there'll be plenty of litigation fighting over different interpretations of this law.
Can I, to go back to Paul's point about overall percentage of affordable housing, has there been, so one option would be, theoretically, would be to say, to add to this in the base, to say 2 to 9 units, if 10% of them have to be affordable. I'm not sure how you do 10% for 2 units, but obviously in this type of thing, it would be round up, so, but a minimum of one would be, so is there been discussion about adding that to the base law? And what is your opinion on?
Discussion up in Hartford about, so.
I mean, internally within, you guys, what is your feelings on that?
I think it's a bridge too far. I think because it obviously puts a burden
Yeah.
on developers, and the point of this is to not put real obstacles, from the legislature's
Yeah.
perspective, is to not put real obstacles in front of these 2 to 9 units trying to get
Yeah.
approved for commercial or mixed-use districts. So I think that might be a bridge too far. I'm not really comfortable with that, so that hasn't been what we're supporting with any of our towns.
That's my understanding as well, but that seems, just to. 'cause
Well,
that would-
you did see in terms of like the 10% so forth, you did see if there's a deviation from the regs, they can put in they can do a deed restricted unit, that's number 4 as a potential, you saw that, right? It's still gonna be
I
adding
just
more to
don't
the
think,
housing
but-
stuff.
right, but, because I don't, mean, it's an opinion, there's no fact based on it, no data based on it, but I don't think that people in the 2 to 9, if you're a developer, can really afford to put affordable housing in those.
Probably not.
No, yeah,
So-
and that's,
Probably not.
but maybe you could compare to, if it was compelling, like you were saying, and it was 250,000 to redo the roof or to make the building in compliance, then instead of spending that money up front, it's possible that your development budget, your pro forma can accommodate a slightly lower rent on one unit, and giving them that flexibility, it serves both our purposes. I
To me, that's a total outlier versus what I think will happen, which I get, again, I get this creates more housing stock and cheaper than perhaps a single-family property, but it strictly on the formulas that the state created, this puts
Yeah.
affordable housing more difficult for us to achieve 10%.
I guess the only hope is that
The legislature.
this law produces housing in measurable quantities across the state, and then there can be modifications of 830G pointing to this as saying like, look, we've had this for 5 years, we've increased our housing stock of smaller and missing middle and whatever housing, and we don't need 830G anymore. But that's obviously fine, that's in the future, and I have no.
Well, this is gonna evolve through additional legislation, court battles, seeing what actually comes out of it, and it's gonna be a few years,
Can we talk about?
before that happens. Hold on here. Mel, did you have one more
Yeah, I mean,
question, quick, and then back to you, Mr. Hall.
I mean, I hear Paul's concern. I guess maybe taking a step back about and kind of resetting a little bit about this conversation. The state has passed a state law that for middle housing requires summary review, and local towns have to come forward and define what they mean by summary review. That's one portion of a large bill, and we are at this moment speaking to a very narrow component of many changes that likely need to be made. So to the fear of will we hurt the town by following a process that is going to be is coming one way or another. If we step back, Woodbridge needs a housing plan to achieve its thresholds, of which 2 to 9 is probably not the primary means of getting there. And so I just think I would encourage us to think of this as one piece of a larger pie. And so to those points, Mike, I guess my question is, or maybe for a clarification for myself so I fully understand, all the towns are effectively kind of looking at a black hole, and they're not really sure what the right regulations are for summary review. And so the alternative process is a bit of a safety valve if we get it entirely wrong. Could I view it that way as well? As turns out, we were wrong on setbacks or whatever it may be, and that would require some significant changes, but in the interim, the developer is not harmed because we have an alternative process that that project would qualify under. Is that also a way of looking at it?
Yes, and because the summary review process is so has to be so formulaic. I feel like it would be very difficult for the commission to weigh a text amendment proposed by a single property owner to amend one of these criteria because you don't have any flexibility elsewhere. And you're saying, well, I don't know, do I make this change because this one person, and how does this affect the rest of the properties? And you don't have any discretion. And so, we're trying to avoid that by saying you don't need to amend the whole reg,
Yeah,
because
got
if
it.
you've got a good enough rationale behind it, we can have this conversation through the special permit process.
Can I just ask another question? We've been talking about the summary
Sure.
review process. Is that what we're looking at? We used a hypothetical 15 items. But as I look at your blue chart on pages 3, just start 3, is that the summary review process, those A through H criteria for bulk regulations for residential districts? Is that it, or is there something else that we're looking at?
It's the entirety, so it's the tables for the development standards, then it's the additional standards related to building materials.
Okay.
So like, we're prohibiting certain building material types, so, what do you call it?
Got it. But it's the combination between the blue tables and the items that are on
The design standards.
pages 8 and 9.
Right.
Those are the summary review process. You meet these criteria, you're in. You don't meet these criteria, you're out.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, got it.
All right, so Mike, so this is where we are, all right? You had said you had to modify 2 or 3 things
Yes.
for the commission, and why don't you go into that now,
Yes.
all right?
You have it if you want. I think we want to keep
Mike, while you're handing it up, Sharon mentioned some concern about the greenery, shrubbery, trees.
So for instance, 2 or
Was
3 would
were
apply.
there any material changes from what's in our regs now?
The only thing that I struck out, but that's not online, is the obligation of the guaranteeing of planting for a period of a year, just because I think that is a little bit beyond what the summary review, but we're not, everything that's in red we're adding, so
Yeah.
there's nothing that was taken out.
Go back to that.
But if there's some, we can look specifically, but we're not, and this doesn't eliminate, change, or modify any existing standard elsewhere in the regulation.
I understand.
So I'm going to take you through this very quickly, but to address some of the comments from the last meeting, to talking further with the chair and wanting to maintain focus and do nothing other than acknowledge that we had talked previously about tiers of housing, but not do anything related to that. I included a few additional refinements that are not really adding content, it's just trying to draw those lines much more clearly. So the stuff that's in yellow is what I have added. The initial set of regulations, and when we originally talked about tiers, I sort of thought we were going to go through a more full-blown sort of process and discussion about housing, but given the time frame associated with summary review, we're constraining what we're doing right now. That initial approach and kind of where we are now created a gap in the existing regulations, which was also touched upon by Mr. Hunter's comments related to the small-scale residential developments, which are currently by special exception. So in order to maintain and preserve the current regulation, how they are addressed and where they are allowed, I basically split out the middle housing into 2 columns, which is on that table on the second page. You'll see the new one in yellow, which then treats the middle housing, those 2 different types of middle housing. One is mixed use, one is residential only. So I'm saying
All
now.
right, 1 second, let me catch up.
Yep. So the state has said.
Okay, go ahead.
You have to allow transit community middle housing, which is a great term because it has nothing to do with transit. It essentially just means residential developments, 2 to 9 units. And then mixed use developments, which is the same thing, only it's mixed use. So in order to create and maintain the current pathway to approval for something that is, let's say, 6 units currently, which is allowed by the current regulations, I had to break those 2 out so that I could maintain that current permit pathway. So that column is how I'm getting there, which is why there's nothing that's red in that column, because that's your current regulation. You can currently have 6 units by special exception in Res B. So I'm creating those 2 categories and separating them as defined by statute, and then maintaining the special exception process based upon your current regulations, because those are residential zones and we don't need to do summary review. I then maintain the summary review as discussed in your development zones, which is why the SR is shown in red. Are we okay with that?
I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you before I get too far. This table right now, in our current regs, is where in the first doc that you handed out?
This table
Is the one on page 2?
This table is broken out across in multiple places in your
But
current.
you
reg.
summarize it, is that, the table on page 2, you updated it to the table on page 2 in the previous doc?
Yes, I just added the column, same table.
Okay. Except that you added that yellow box and added also SE and a bunch of things.
Because that's your current reg. So the draft that you walked into the meeting with
Yeah,
had a gap. And the gap was, what do I do if I'm in Res A
Yeah.
and I want to build 6 units? Your
Yeah.
current regulations said that's by special exception. The initial approach that we took to the tiers left that out, and there was a gap. So in order to not unintentionally delete a process which currently is in place, I'm adding this column to further constrain the focus of this amendment to just summary review.
can I just pause and ask Chris or anybody else, where does this table exist in our regs?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
So where would people find this?
It's broken out over multiple tables in the opportunity housing reg. It's just in multiple small tables. So I'm consolidating it into one table, but the content is still there.
And this specific part addresses in part Mr. Hunter's comment
Right.
about affirmatively removing, so.
Right. The deletion that
Yeah.
he suggested was included
Yeah.
was.
Okay.
This adds it back in.
Yeah.
But it isn't an amendment because your current regs allow for
Yeah.
it.
And the
What I was
table,
trying to
Hold
get
on,
is
Mike,
if
let
some-
me,
if
so,
someone's
Paul,
watching-
stay on your point, stay on your point.
Right, if somebody's watching and they're gonna wanna go and confirm what you just said,
Yep.
it'd be helpful, rather than people emailing Chris, if we could, for the record, tell them where they could find the information.
Sure.
He just did. I mean, that's the difficulty.
Wait, no, Mike, no, sorry. Not Mike. I heard him say it's scattered throughout the document. My point is, someone is not here, they don't have this document,
It's hard to follow.
and so and given that people are skeptical on a lot of the work we've done, it'd be great if we could reference that for the record, so someone watching this tomorrow or the next day can go to the reg and confirm that what we said is correct and not cause another issue in town.
So I'm going to read to you the section from the E-code version.
Okay.
So in opportunity housing, which in the E-code version is 495-16, there's a subsection D. It says 2 units per parcel, and there's a table. Then it goes into E, multifamily development, and it says 3 or more units per parcel, and there's a table. And then you go further down, and it's opportunity housing bulk regulations, and that's where it gets into building coverage, lot coverage, and there's another table. So I took all of the separate tables and combined them. Content's the same, but they're all specifically in there, sort of verbatim. So this
It's like a reiteration, Paul, but so it's.
I
it's
understand
new.
it. Trust me when I tell you, I understand what's being said.
Yeah.
My concern is
I hear
that
you.
people who are not here and hear about it are gonna listen or go on and say, where is this in the regs?
Well, we would have to point them to it.
Right,
And we can give them your cell number.
but please do.
But
I'll
I
do
get-
it, when
but Paul,
you,
bring
I'll
up
do
a
what happens when I call you. You ignore me.
But Paul, this is a reiteration of the existing regs. That's a big word for me, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they put it right there and.
I know that.
Oh,
I'm not arguing
that
the
it's a
point.
big word, or that you know that it's.
Holy-
All right, so
Right,
it's
thank
there.
you.
We can't.
Right.
It is.
So
hard to
imagine if
follow.
you're home and you're not here,
One
and
at a
then, or someone
time.
tells you they changed the regs,
Hold
and
on.
we can't easily
Hold
point.
on, to the chair. All right, I get your point.
Thank you.
But it actually is more clear having it in a chart, and we
I
didn't have it.
totally agree with all that. You're.
And, yes, but
Hold
people,
on.
I understand, I get what you're saying, I get your point. All right, just over this way, who had a point? Someone wanted to
I
say?
just said one at a time to talk.
Yes,
An extra copy.
point taken, thank you. All right. Mike, we're back to you, where you are explaining where he's going.
That's extras. So, we're moving through, I think the other clarification that I wanted to make, because it was a question that was raised at the last meeting or maybe prior to, and I, again, it's not adding any regulatory process, but I think it's important to clarify, which moves into page 3, which is additional standards. So this 3A is simply saying, if you have a mixed-use development, and you want to do 2 to 9 units and some commercial use, the standards and the regulations which pertain to the commercial use still apply. So you cannot come in with a drive-through, build 8 residential units, and say the whole development is summary review. Okay, so whatever standard the reg has for that commercial component still applies. So if they want to stick some special permit commercial use in there, they can't just tack it on to a 8-unit development and somehow get the whole thing by summary review. I think that's probably something we all sort of
All
understood.
right, that's a
that we
good
think
point.
about.
Let me read it. One
Yep.
second. Let me just read it.
Sure.
Let everybody. Okay, helpful. Thank you.
So the last thing, that section that I added is at the very last page on 11, conflicting provisions. And so again, speaking about how we need to be objective and very non-discretionary, this says that if for some reason we reference a standard and there's conflicting provision, the most objective and most stringent requirement applies. So we're just trying to double, triple, quadruple cover that if something comes up down the road and we have another section of the regulations that Mike didn't catch, that the more restrictive standard is what's going to hold.
Understood.
So that's pretty common language, but I'm just trying to, again, codify how this process will unfold when you receive.
Hey, Mike, can you go back to page 8?
Yes, sure.
In the yellow under G, where you wrote, which includes at least 2 residential units?
Yep.
Because that wasn't expressly understood, is that why you added it?
It's to clarify that, yes, it applies to at least the 2.
So should it say, which includes at least 2, but no more than 9?
Or not. Say it.
Sure, we could clarify that, yeah, no problem.
And then, that's 1, and then 2 is, I see you took, the primary materials from 80% to 60%, what does that mean?
It means that 60% of the facade will have to contain the primary materials shown in that graphic on the left. Through some of the conversations that we've sort of had elsewhere in talking and looking at plans and other things, to create a little bit less rigidity and a little bit more flexibility, going from 80 to 60 gives them a little bit more to play with. So 60% of the building will have to have one of those, and then 40% would be some other material.
As in asking, what is the 40% then?
I mean, the thing that we're seeing a lot is, what do they refer to it? Exterior insulated finishing system, EIFS?
EIFS.
It's not necessarily the most attractive looking thing. There's some others that are very similar to that. And so they could use that. They could use anything. It could be, depending on what the specific building is, but we're regulating, again, assuming we're talking about construction, 60% of that facade. I don't know the universe of all building products,
Yeah.
but the one most towns want to avoid is ethos.
Is what? I'm sorry.
Ethos.
It's a, like, it's a foam with, covered in, like, plaster. You see it in a lot of shopping centers. Oftentimes, it's fragile. So oftentimes you'll see it above brick or another hard surface facade. It's efficient and good insulative properties and is, so you see it often, but, and you can make it look like a lot of other things, it's not, but, you know, it is what a lot of people will want to use. I think that 60% is reasonable.
Yeah, a lot of warehouses, I think you see now, like we'll have something maybe sort of block at the bottom, and then they have these
Yeah.
panels that they just put up, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
That's what it is. If, in my experience, it is the cheapest option and it meets code, and so if they have the opportunity to do that and it's a new build, that's what you're gonna get. It's like a panel, sort of a foam board. So that's what we're trying to get away from.
Following up on this question, the origin of the 60% versus the 80%? Is that from some architectural standards? Is that from some
There-
national standards, ANSI standards, something?
It's
standard?
not from a national standard. There are, it's from some form-based code examples where you're really trying to focus on those primary materials and getting buildings to be consistent in the way in which they're designed. And it also sort of forces them to incorporate glass and other traditional components. So 80% is just a little bit higher of a bar, so to try to fall somewhere in the middle where we're not being super, super prescriptive, especially because you're not looking at a situation where all of your sites are going to be new construction. You're trying to not create like too many unintended nonconformities. So it's just trying to reduce that, but still kind of create some expectation.
And do you know what's happening statewide with that 60 versus the 80? What are other towns doing? Or more, or
I mean,
less?
I think that most of the regulations that I have, well, I would say well over 100 towns in Connecticut are going to fail to meet the July 1 deadline.
Okay.
Many of them, I think, are sort of like, what do we got to do? Is this going to really apply to me? And they're going to have a rude awakening on July 2nd if somebody wants to develop. A lot of the regs that I have read try to apply sort of the traditional design standards that you might see for like a village district to try to make that all work. All of the towns that we're writing for, we're sort of trying to line up into that 60% standard because it's prescriptive without being too overly demanding.
Can we go to the planting part where we remove the all trees shall be guaranteed for the year? And why'd you take it out? What happens if they plant and everything dies in the first year?
Because to me, that's an end of project issue. If someone goes out and wants a CO and they planted outside of the window, then that would be something that I'm assuming Chris would take care of sort of at the end of the project like any other development.
Typically, in any new development, there's always a landscaping bond at the end to ensure that stuff is there.
But I don't know
And
how
it's
you,
held- And it's held for a year.
yeah, I don't know how you'd determine that the trees are guaranteed for a year sort of at the front end, right? This is a review standard,
Yeah.
and that just, it felt like it conflicted. If you want to leave it in,
So Chris, at the end, if they plant and you hold the bond for a year,
Building department holds it.
we hold the bond for a year, and at the 8-month mark, the shrubbery dies.
It's guaranteed for a year,
Okay. And who enforces that and how?
the building department.
How do they?
If you want to release the bond.
Yeah.
They have to
They have to
show
go
that
out
it
and
works.
show.
Thank you,
it's-
that's what I wanted to know.
but it's usually at the CO.
It's at the CO.
Not at
It's
planting.
a condition of its
Yep.
CO.
So it would
it's-
not be a
so
year later, it
typically
would be
there
right
are two
away.
bonds that are collected. One's a landscaping bond, and then the other one is to ensure that there's at least paving of an apron.
I got a question on this table on page 2. Not that on the new one, you have this middle housing, TCMH, you look at GBA, and that's a special exception, it's in your new column. But in the other one, we just, as an all-in-one Holland, it's a summary review. Is that, the reason that that's not a summary review in
Because that is for the residential zones, and the summary review doesn't apply to residential zones. So I'm maintaining your current,
but that's in the this GBA,
so GBA, the current one would be residential, and then the mixed use, it would be by summary review.
I think what he's saying is under GBA and GB, you have summary review
But-
for,
in GBA, in middle housing, it says
you've got
special exception.
exception and summary review
And
for
then
GBA.
in MXD, it says summary review. I just wonder if there's any,
So the TCMH would be special exception residential only. Summary review would be for mixed use, would be, have a commercial component. So if you wanted to, I mean, you could certainly swap that out
no.
if you want to do both by summary review, but I was trying to
No, I
only make
understand.
the amendments necessary.
It's a little
Yeah, it is.
confusing, but
No,
I
it's a
just-
lot confusing.
But I want,
Yes,
I just
agreed.
want to see that it's.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, I understand.
This is not, at some point I have to work in like, this is a complicated, it is chaotic, this has been a sprint of amendments, and, you know, the normal MO is to not roll up to a hearing and say, here, there's 3 more changes.
No, I,
We are, you know, and I've been asked to talk about this like 2 or 3 different occasions at other places, and I'm like, why does anybody expect that anybody knows about this? Every town is in the same boat. The one thing that I will say is, because you're probably contemplating at this point, you've talked about this enough, it's, you know, after 8 o'clock. You do not have to adopt this amendment tonight. You could have a special meeting, or you could push this to July. Come July 1, whether you have this amendment or not, if someone asks to develop these types of projects, you have to treat it through summary review, which means you would have to take whatever standards exist in the regs and apply them in some non-discretionary way and make a determination on compliance. What that looks like, none of us will really know. You may say that's low risk, and therefore let's continue to July or August, like some towns have. You might decide, even if this is not perfect, it's better than nothing, and let's adopt it and continue to refine it, which a lot of towns have done. I don't know the right answer to that, but I do know that on July 1, you have got to go through the summary review process if anybody shows up. And that is what is causing, I think, more towns to try to sprint to get something on the books and say, there might be things we need to refine. We'll roll right into those revisions after we've seen 2 or 3. But the risk is there that someone will show up, and now that they've seen what you're contemplating, if you don't get it done for July 1, if they say, well, I don't want to have to do this, the way to do that is to beat you to an effective date. And I'm not trying to fearmonger.
no, we know that. That's why we're
Yeah.
doing this. We know this.
We have to give the developer an understanding of
Good. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a 5-minute break right now. All right, we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Forge ahead.
5-minute break. We're gonna come back after that. Matt has a question that I want to drill down a little bit on, and then we're gonna decide if we want to vote on this tonight as is, or if we want another meeting. All right? And I don't want to force a vote on this if people feel they want to digest it a little bit more. Let me take a 5-minute recess. We'll be right back. It's 8:10 and 8:15. All right? Recess. We good? All right, we're back on the record. Thank you everyone very much. All right, so we had one issue that came up in language on the proposed regs, which we're going to deal with right now, and then we're going to talk about the process and where we are in these regs. So, Nick, did you want to mention that, or did you want to lead that discussion about that language?
I think Matt can
Or
offer
Matt
his
can start.
suggestion.
We just want to get it on the
And
record.
the planner and I can comment on it.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so kind of getting back to the comment I had earlier is, you know, on the alternate compliance, you know, just the way it reads, it says commission, you know, special permit which may be issued by the commission provided one or more of the following criteria have been established. But for instance, item 2 and 3 are always applicable, if you read those. I mean, I don't see a time where those two wouldn't always be applicable. And then item 1 would, you know, is it applicable if it's an existing building? Item 5 is applicable if it's a roof type, and item 6 is applicable if it's parking, related parking. So I guess my one initial is, so the only thing that was really maybe is the application, is item 4, where the application will provide at least one deed restricted affordable unit. So that's the only one that, you know, that's kind of really a question mark. But the question is how to reword it to make, you know, from saying one or more of the following to, you know, one of the suggestions I had was provide the following criteria has been established as applicable, as one suggestion. But I guess my point being, there's always going to be at minimum 2 of those applicable or more.
Number one, the idea there is to exclude somebody who has a development site and they just want to build something that's non-conforming. So they wouldn't get number 1 unless they already had a structure.
Right.
So the idea from that was to get to a point where somebody wasn't just, as one of the commissioners mentioned earlier, sort of willfully getting most of it done, but not designing something that was fully compliant. So if they were building from scratch, they would automatically be excluded from being eligible. And then I think number 2, yes, it could be applicable, but you might find that something isn't consistent. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head how we could refine it further. I mean, you certainly could try to make this more, so that more than one of the criteria would apply. If you wanted to make a finding that 3 of the 6 or all of, or whatever.
Well, I guess when I read number 2, is it would be a situation where number 2 is not applicable?
Well, they would still have to affirmatively prove that to you guys,
Right.
to your
Because
satisfaction.
we could say no, and then we wouldn't approve it.
So let's say someone wanted to go to 100% lot coverage and do no stormwater design. You might say, yeah, that's not consistent with the POCD. You're just going to send all your stormwater to your neighbors and you're not doing any landscaping or whatever. So there might, that in theory could not be consistent.
I mean, it sounds like Matt, help me here, but if I'm hearing you, you're suggesting like we should make a few of these things mandatory, and if like you need to establish X, Y, and Z, and if you want to throw another deed restricted unit in there, then that might help your chances. But how to reduce that to writing?
I guess that's the way I kind of was reading it. It was like, you know, some of these, you know, and that's why I said that as applicable, meaning if it's related to an existing building or whatever, then that would apply. If it's not, if it's ready to or not, it wouldn't apply. But yeah, as you interpret it,
I mean,
guess that
as
was all my
applicable puts a little bit more context to what this listing means. I mean, we can revisit it again too, but I think as applicable gives the commission a little bit more clear discretion to say what is a priority on this list if someone is coming in and seeking alternative compliance. So, I mean, I'm okay with that. If
That's
we're gonna
fine with
go
me
with
to
the
put that in.
alternative compliance.
Sure. All right, let me sum up where we are. So we've had some discussions. First of all, Mr. D'Amato, I know you were racing because of the time frame. We don't usually do regulations and changes like this. So we do appreciate your trying to give us a framework, some guardrails, some very good design work here in our regs. We do appreciate all those things. We know you've moved very, very quickly to that. We also acknowledge that we do want people who are coming into town to actually be able to build something and have some flexibility for Dominic's and other people's comments. So, to my commission members, I'm in favor of putting forward a motion, which I'm not doing just yet, but I just want to talk to you guys about it. I'm in favor of putting forward a motion that approves the proposed housing regs with the new edits that we just got and advancing that right now. I would vote in favor of it, but if people want more time to digest this, we can fit in another meeting and another vote by the end of the month and to get this approved before July 1st. So if you guys want that, I just want to hear what people have to say about that topic, because otherwise I'll just motion it. But I don't even want to go there without discussing it. Paul, please.
I'm fine putting something on the regs right now, although on page 8 in G, I want to add that it says includes at least 2 and not more than 9 residential units, and I'm also not comfortable with the primary materials being just 60%. I'd like that to go up.
All right, boss, where are you, please, Paul?
I'm on page 8 on top under G.
You've got the.
On Mike's newish doc.
We're dealing with the 5/28/26 draft, is that right? That's what we're
Yep.
talking about?
Yeah. So instead of 60, you want 80?
I'm open for, I mean, I just think, you know, I just think, I don't think it's enough, given about what I've heard said subsequently. So I'm fine starting at 80. I'm fine starting at 75. But, so I'd like that change, and I'd like which includes at least 2 residential and which includes at least 2 and no more than 9 residential units at the top in yellow.
Also on G?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mike, what will that do to developers taking the 60 to 75? We don't know, right?
A lot of regulations, when they deal with primary materials and they have something as high as 80, they would then list acceptable secondary materials, which would make up the balance. By not including that, we're giving them a little bit more flexibility. I guess the question is, just off the top of your heads, do you think that there's an existing commercial building that might have more than 20% of its facade as glass or something else right now that would be non-conforming?
I don't know.
No idea.
I don't know.
Like I said, we're in a space where we can't see the future, so, you know, we're probably going to have to tweak this at some point.
Let me just say, as a general comment, which the chair should have said earlier, there is no doubt that these regs are coming back sometime in the next 6 months to a year. As we hear from developers, hear from town, get this out there. Other towns do things. There'll be court cases that develop. So there's no doubt that this is going to be coming back. We want to be reasonable in our race to get this done, but this will definitely be coming back. Look, I'm fine with 75%, if that's
Or
something.
80. You're never going to
Oh
die.
my
You're
goodness.
never going to.
Oh my God, I could never please you. Go ahead.
No, well, I don't know if that's true, but you're never going to dial it up. You're never going to dial it up. It's going to be easier to dial it down. So if you start at 80 and 80 doesn't work, you've got 75. But if you're at 75, the pressure's going to come in to go south from 75. You're never, ever, ever going to dial it up. So I'm with Paul. I think 80, you had that at first. I think 80 is a good number. If you do just a quick Google search, you'll see some places where it even has 100. So I think 80 works, and it gives developers room, and it gives us room to move south if we need to.
Mel?
As an example of the benefit of the alternative compliance, if someone came in and was like, I can do 60, we could therefore use that method for approving the project.
If there was some rationale that made sense to you, but not, I want to use some material that's completely inappropriate or whatever.
Okay. And then the second question was on the 2 to 9, as I understand it, the state law is applicable only to those units that are 2 to 9 already. So adding the 9 is duplicative of what's already in state law?
Adding the cap.
Yeah, the cap.
Yes, I mean, summary review is only applicable to the 2 types of developments as defined, which are capped at 9, yes.
So if the state in 5 years decides, you know what, we're gonna go to 15, and we would then have to go back and change our regulations and move the cap up to the 15 effectively.
Right.
Okay, got it. That was those ones.
Okay, so go back to the 80.
Yep.
All right.
And I will say that there was a bill that was proposed that would have also required this to be allowed in industrial zones. It died. The folks that put that bill forward made it very clear that it's a priority for next session to try to get that passed. So they've sort of glommed onto this summary review and as of right thing. So I think we're going to see more and more of this. So we'll probably have to do something with it before too long regardless.
Understood. Can we go back to the alternative compliance? On exactly the same rationale that we just discussed with the 80 and not being able to go south. We need to have something in place by July 1st. Once we have alternative compliance in there, and alternative compliance is in there, it will never, ever come out. It will never come out. So my suggestion, what I would propose is that we eliminate the alternative compliance for now. Let's get the regulations in place. We always have the opportunity over the next 12 months as life unfolds to put alternative compliance in. We'll have a better track record to understand where alternative compliance is necessary, where we're getting hung up, but it's not necessary now. And I do think that it is just a door for litigation. It is just a door for litigation.
I would push back only that we are the same commission responsible for whether or not we want to use it. And so it would be the same members. And I think everyone here, would like to leverage that as useful towards the development of projects, not to abuse it in any sense. So I don't know why not including it would be the right choice.
My view on it is that it's what the statute has asked us to do, has required us to do, is to come up with a formula that is not going to be with mandatory standards, mandatory on us. So it becomes a predictable environment for the building community. And it protects us from liability for any claims that we are abusing our discretion. As soon as you factor in a section where there is discretion, now you have opened ourselves up to the question of, have we abused our discretion? And without us knowing exactly where the pitfalls are in our mandatory standards, what will happen is not that the board will change, the people will be the same, but we will have been confronted with, perhaps, some real-life problems, or not confronted by some real-life problems. And our not having been confronted by real-life problems will be something of an education for us. And not having been confronted with real-life problems, we could say to ourselves at that point, okay, well, let's get rid of the discretionary standards. But once we have the discretionary standards in place, we're never, ever going to get rid of them. So I would say, let's implement this. Let's just be a little bit more circumspect in the way we implement this. We will have satisfied the legal requirement without it. We will allow time to unfold to see where the pitfalls are, if any. And if there are some, we have in our back pocket the discretionary standards that we have now considered, and we can always put them in place on September 1st, or November 1st, or whatever.
I think it's important.
Mr. Edwards next.
Yeah, so I guess I have a slightly different take on it. I mean, I think maybe the alternate compliant, if a developer comes in and sees the alternate, maybe can't make comply for some specific reason, maybe it's existing structure or maybe lot size or whatever, then he could, but if he sees there's what do they call it, the alternate compliance, then maybe he would go forward with the project and present. But if we don't, if he just reads it and says, oh, I know I can't meet that because of this one thing, he might not even come forward. So we might not even see what potential buildings are out there. So I think it makes sense to put it in there, at least maybe as a compromise for existing structures, so that if somebody wants to convert an existing structure and there's something that prevents them, we can at least move forward with that. Maybe for open lot, we can leave that for a future time to consider. I don't know, but that would be my recommendation.
Paul?
I already spoke.
And you'll speak again on the alternate. Come on.
What do you want him to say?
I mean, I think we've shown the.
I like it, sorry.
No,
I
that's
like
all.
it.
I agree. I like it as well. I think that we have shown as a board that, we are open to modifying our zoning laws as we learn more. We modify modified the opportunity zoning, and then we took another chance and reviewed it. So I think I disagree with the idea that if we enact this, it's always going to stay in. I see this as a, we're taking our best shot at this, and any provision in this that in 6 months we find is, is producing an unintended result, or however, then we can come back and look at it. I don't see how this is unique compared to the other ones. And I think that Nick specifically said that this type of alternative compliance was specifically contemplated. So I think I don't see this further opening us to liability beyond the fact that people will sue us. They seem to be willing to sue us for any reason if they don't like the outcome. And if they don't like the outcome based on this, they can still sue us and say it's too restrictive, even in the base scope of the law.
Jim, I will say we get sued all the time. We're under lawsuits right now. Believe me, I know about it. It's constant, okay? And there's people that come in on both sides, and we do change our regs. We just changed them. I hear what you're saying. I like it. But these regs are so restrictive that I'd like to give developers a little bit more room, and I think this does it. I think it's helpful. I get your points. It's well said.
I appreciate it. But to your point, I'm sorry. Suppose we put a number 1, the word "and" at the end of number 1, just like there's an "and" at the end of number 2.
All right, let's take a look at that. That's good.
Because I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't want to go the full way and include like new development, open lots, whatever, then, if an existing building, at least we're capturing that.
So at the end of number 1, can you put the word "and"?
Yep.
All right. Okay. I'm going to make a motion
No.
to... Chris, don't talk. I wanted to let everybody know that SCROG... Thank you, Chris. She's always there for me. SCROG did say these regulations caused no harm or had no effect in the general region. Is that the language, Chris?
Have no adverse
No
impact to the adjoining municipalities or on Long Island Sound.
Thank you. Saved by Chris. All right. I'd like to please make a motion then to approve the text for the opportunity housing as we've discussed in compliance with state laws, to set up our regulations in conformity with the new state laws that become effective July 1st, 2026. So I make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Aaron Hoffman seconded, and we'll discuss it. Do you want us to discuss this at all, Chris? Did you need something?
Are you incorporating
We are incorporating the new edits that were handed out this evening, just a few minutes ago. So that would be the revised document. And modified with an 80% on the primary materials. And the word "and" coming after letter H, alter the compliance, numeral number 1. At the end of that sentence, the word "and."
And what about no more than 9?
Where was that, Paul?
That was right above the 80%.
Yes, you asked for that.
G.
Yes, and no more than 9, which includes at least 2 residential units and
At least 2 and no more than 9 residential units.
We got you on that?
I have that.
You got that, all right.
I thought you'd already agreed to that, so.
Yes, I did. Yep, I didn't say it emphatically. I just agreed in my brain, but I didn't tell people about it.
Was there a clarification on this, or we keeping that?
One or more.
We're keeping that, okay.
Finally, you take the yellow ink out, any Scrivener's errors or mistakes or misspellings. All right, any discussion which we're doing right now, but any discussion on the motion which is on the table?
Yeah, I am still going to oppose it, only because I still think that the alternative compliance is not necessary. Not necessary at this point, and I think it is actually counterproductive to what it is the state is requiring us to do. So I'm going to be opposing it on that basis.
I understand. Chris, do you have that?
I agree with,
I can't hear Dr. Wozniak.
All right,
No,
Dr.
I-
Wozniak is agreeing
with Mr.
with
Horowitz.
Mr. Horowitz. All those in favor?
Okay.
So don't, let's give her some time.
Effective date
July 1st.
should be till June 30th.
So June 30th?
So that it's effective when? the-
Before.
Yeah.
No?
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
4. And then, all right, so you have 4. Is Mr. Edwards voting this evening?
No.
No, okay. And then those opposed? 2. And abstentions, 0. Passes. All right.
And just so I know who seconded it, you made it.
Aaron. Thank you. All right, we have a little bit more of a meeting to go. Nobody goes yet. All right, in our work session number 2, 110 Luciani Street. Chris, can you give us an update on that?
So when you acted on this on May 4th, you made it subject to receipt of the items that Mr. Owaskowitz had said that he would furnish to you.
We
He
did.
furnish them to you. So that permit, as you had moved, is now valid through September 1st. And that is only as it pertains to 110 Luciani,
September 1 or September 3rd?
September 1.
Okay.
You said 90 days, which basically gets you to September.
Understood. Thank you. Dr. Wozniak, Scrog?
We had a meeting that, total of 5 communities, including Woodbridge, and regulations that were submitted. Wallingford, essentially, was amending regulations to comply with the new state regulations, Public Act 25-1. Milford had, all of these were felt not to be harmful to the surrounding communities or to Long Island Sound, and they were approved. Milford they were allowing accessory dwellings in R30 and RA zones, and they extended it to R18 zones, slightly smaller zones, and with a maximum size of the accessory dwellings at 800 square feet. Now, Guilford, they try to combine issuing a zoning permit at the same time as a building permit or a certificate of occupancy. They claim that there were a lot of inconsistencies and difficulties when it wasn't combined, so they changed their regulations to accomplish that. In West Haven, at an exhaustive 40 or more pages, they're going through all their zoning regulations. This was only part of the regulation, and changing it, removing redundancies and contradictions. And the last one is Woodbridge, our proposed zoning text amendment, and they acknowledge we had a public hearing scheduled tonight, but all these were felt to be not harmful to the surrounding towns or to Long Island Sound.
Thank you very much for your reports. Zoning enforcement officer, Chris, anything to report?
So relative to 110 and 114 Luciani, I received an email on Thursday from Mr. Owaskowitz saying he would be working over the weekend and sending out the notice as was required.
Can you speak up?
So, On Thursday, I received an email from Mr. Waskowitz saying that he was going to be working down on Luciani. And he was sending notice out to the abutting property owners. And so I emailed him back with the specific requirements that you had regarding working on the weekend, that it was solely for Saturday in terms of the excavation permit. It's my understanding that over the weekend when I was not here, that he was working on Sunday. And so I was not here, and the first selectman contacted me, and I reiterated again about the excavation permit not being valid on Sunday irregardless. And apparently there was an allegation that they were working under the noise ordinance, so as much as I can tell you, I was not involved in going out there. Other than that, we've had numerous complaints from Mr. Waskowitz regarding the small yard signs that have gone up regarding 27 Beecher Road. And I'm in the process of checking with town council on how we will review that, because it's my understanding that they are a form of expression, personal expression, and as long as they're on private property, that they can be there. The issue is, how do we figure out where all these very numerous signs are in terms of being on private property versus road right-of-ways, but it's an enforcement issue, and we will deal with it. If there's anything else that's out there zoning-wise. We've had one person complaining about roosters, so I sent out yet another letter asking them to remove them. And then, and if that doesn't happen by June 6th, then we get to have a more firm letter come out from town council. And then the only other one that I issued was regarding cars that are on Amity Road. I believe it's 310 Amity Road. They've been sitting out there. There's a number of old cars that are just sitting there. And they also have a date of June 6th to remove them. So I will let you know back in July what happens with all this.
Thank you for your report.
I have a question. Is there a sanction or correspondence or something associated with the Sunday work for Mr.
It
Waskowitz?
happened yesterday.
No, but
But can
I
we
just
find-
don't know what our process is.
I don't know what he was doing on Sunday. If it was not excavation, it does not fall under zoning.
I see.
The only thing it would fall under is the noise ordinance, which is enforced by the police department.
I see. Okay, thank you. I was just looking for some clarification. Thank you.
From what I was told by Mr. Waskowitz, his son was filling a truck and doing some other work. He didn't expound to me on what the other work was.
All right, thank you. We may revisit that. All
What
right.
happened with that leaking pipe on the neighbor?
It's a civil matter.
That's a civil matter between Mr. Waskowitz and his neighbor.
All right. Correspondence received, Chris?
I don't know, do you want?
Would you like to say something, Mika?
Just in regard to the Sunday, I'm not sure if you wanted.
If you would like to say something, sure.
He was using his backhoe, his heavy machinery, to transfer materials. And the neighbor complained, went down there, checked the regs. From my understanding of the regs, you can't do it on weekends unless you get specific authority to do so. Chris, as she said, exchanged an email with him saying Saturday was okay, Sunday was not. He did stop once we said it, but it was heavy equipment that was being used. And he referenced his ability to do it because it was under the noise ordinance, but that wasn't this was under the regular regs. I believe it's 5.A.2, which indicates work is done Monday through Friday. And he did have the ability to do it on Saturday, so there's no issue there, but it did not include Sunday.
Mr. First Selectman, just so you know, matters related to this are with the town attorney. We're working with him. I don't want to say anything more than that, as there's other things that are going on. All right. Correspondence received?
I distributed an email, a rather lengthy email that you received from Mr. Urbano. I don't didn't know, given the lateness of the hour, if you just want to review that and then just place it under old business for appropriate discussion in July.
Sure. Yeah, because I'm not gonna, I haven't read it, I just got it, and I'll read through it, and then we'll talk about putting it on an agenda.
And then the last thing, there, I sent you an email, I forwarded to you another concern from Mr. Waskowitz regarding the chairman's attendance at the Board of Selectmen's meeting on January 14th, and I just forwarded it to you for your own edification.
So that matter is with the town attorney to be followed up on further as may or may not be appropriate. You can send an email to him to that effect.
Okay.
All right, yeah, I would do that. All right. And I'm being very careful what I say since there's legal exposure. So.
I just wanted to formally report at the meeting that also came to us.
Yes, we want it in the record. Yeah. Regarding the minutes, I've received them. I haven't read them yet. Has anybody read them or looked at them? We can put them on the next agenda. All right. Anything else? Mr. Shash?
Move to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.